Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I had a request by Jacob Ramsey on the comment section to make a video about how I either build or consider or plan out lines that switch industries. So I have a few notes here that I'll kind of read off and kind of summarize, but I want to discuss this topic via the Coxswain sub. So the Coxswain sub has a lot of different aspects to it. I did that on purpose just because I wanted to try to include a little bit of everything in it. And that makes it where it's not necessarily completely prototypical, but that doesn't bother me too much, because at the end of the day, I wanted something where I could, you know, spend 2 or 3 hours running a train and get a lot of good things done, but at the same time, not feel like it's too much of like a toy train or a model railroad. So it's a good balance, I think. But yeah, let's talk about officially considerations for building lines for serving industry. So you definitely want to write these down if you're interested in kind of how I build lines, or how, you know, someone else with an opinion might build lines that switch industries. Here's kind of, I guess I've got 5 pointers. So the first thing that I always try to consider, and that I think everyone should consider, is if you're going to build a line to switch industries, how does it interact with the real world or the fictional world? Is it going to be a short line? Is it going to be a branch line that still belongs to a major railroad? Is it going to be a main line? Are you switching industries off the main line? Are you switching off of a yard? All right, and so I want to kind of swing around the Coxswain sub here and kind of take a look at these examples real quick. But just to start off, on the Coxswain sub, we do actually have a short line. If I go to the town of Moscow, which is way over here, we do actually have industries served by a short line. Now, I don't have it populated right now with any rail cars or anything like that, but this is the yard that belongs to the Moscow Industrial Railway as soon as it decides to pop up here. Sorry, it's just, there's a lot of assets to load on this side of the layout. So there are 9 industries here in Moscow Industrial, and so naturally we have a short line that serves these. And so when I was planning out this industrial area, I tried to plan industries that would not necessarily need to interact with each other, but would most certainly interact with other industries on the route. And then also in an area where they would need a lot of carload traffic, but not necessarily long cuts of cars. So high volume traffic, but not, you know, not 20 or 30 cars at a time. So something busy with a lot of carload switching. That was kind of the idea behind this short line. Now another example is a branch line that comes off the main. So over here in Billary, which I have redone a lot of Billary since I've had the last video that showed off any part of this town. Here in Billary, we have a branch called the Med Branch, and the Med Branch heads off to the east, and it heads off to the town of Med. That's why it's called the Med Branch. And so when I was designing this branch line, I thought to myself, okay, I want it at the end of the branch, I want there to be a sawmill, and between the town of Billary and the sawmill, I wanted there to be just a couple of towns, different industries, you know, an iron mine here because we're getting off into the mountains, you know, and I wanted these different things to be able to give some work to do while you're working your way up to the sawmill. So also have a little co-op section over here for a little bit of switching. And then of course, here's the second town. So that was kind of the idea behind this branch line. And then once you get to Med, here's another good example. Sometimes you might want to serve industries directly from a yard. So here we have a yard in Med, and the only purpose this yard serves is to facilitate either car storage or shipping cars to and from the industries here in town. So we have a flour mill, a feed mill, there's a furniture plant over here, and then here, of course, is the major sawmill. So the only purpose these yards here in town serve are to support these industries. So that's another purpose, or another thing to consider, I guess, when you're considering how you're going to build your line to serve and switch industries. And then lastly, there's the industries that you switch off of the main line. So let's see, there's a good one over here, right here, the co-op facility. So this was featured in one of my first videos, my first live stream actually, talked about this co-op facility. So this is switched off the main line. All right, it doesn't get its own local. Instead, trains that come through and pass by here do the switching at this facility. So this is an example of how you can facilitate switching off of the main line. So, and then of course the last option is switching that is done in towns. So if I go here to the town of Highbridge, all right, we have a small yard, and then back here in the back we have a brick factory, and so naturally all the switching done here is going to be done in town. So Trainz can come drop their cars off in the yard or on the siding, and then the little town switcher can do the work. So those are the different ways that you can consider how your industry or your industrial line is going to interact with the greater world. The next thing is you got to consider, where is it going to be? Is it going to be some real place? Is it going to be fictional? So just to point out, this part of my route here, Coxton, this is a completely fictional town. Now I know there's towns called Coxton, but this one's completely fictional. This is at the confluence of the Mississippi River, which is here, and the Arkansas River, which is here. Now, if you go look on a map at where these two rivers come together, there's really not very much in that area that's impressive. So a lot of this is, actually all of it, is just completely made up. And that's okay, because that's what I chose to do with this route. But you got to decide where it's going to be. And the reason that's important is because once you decide where it's going to be, you have to decide what industries you want to serve. So this is the third thing you got to think about. So in my case, when I built this Coxton sub, I had to think, okay, what are the major industries that I want to serve? So I have a steel mill, I have some warehousing along the river, I've got a sawmill, and I wanted these to be, some of the bigger industries. I wanted there to be some coal, some iron. I wanted those to be the bigger industries on the route. So that's what I focused on. I have another route I've been working on for Model Railroad that's kind of based in Michigan, sort of in Ohio. And, it serves the automotive industry. I chose to do that because that's one of the big industries in that area. You don't have to do that. You can make up whatever you want. But in my case, for that particular route, I wanted it to kind of represent to an extent what the actual industrial focus is of the states that it resides in. So that's the third thing, is what industries are going to be served. And then the fourth thing is you got to think about car loads and the types of cars that are going to go in and come out. And the reason you have to think about this is this helps you determine what kind of facilities that you need. So for that, I think a really good example would be to look at this team track here that we made in one of our live stream episodes. So here at the team tracks, we have quite a few things. So we have facilities for unloading goods onto flat cars or flat trailers. We have a place for box vans to back up and hook up to or get really close to the box cars so they can open up the doors and get things out. Same thing for perishable vans. They can back up, do the same thing, and have their trailers loaded. We have some of those sitting over here. I didn't specifically put in any like unloading racks for tank cars, but I mean, technically you've seen these trailers when they unload at the gas station, they have their own piping. So, you could argue that they have their own piping to pull out of a tank car as well for fuel deliveries. And then of course, here's a big one for facilities. If you're going to bring in bulk, you need a facility for unloading the bulk. So that's what these sheds are for. These sheds are for unloading bulk. So we're not ever going to shove a box car, for example, into here to be unloaded. And then these two augers here, or not really augers, but these two facilities here are for loading goods into covered hoppers, bulk goods. So, and that's kind of the purpose of these. So when you are determining what kind of goods are going to come into your industries, you then can use that to help determine what kind of facilities you need at the industry. So here's a warehouse. It pretty much exclusively serves boxcars, and so naturally it's just going to have some platforms so that we can easily get stuff in and out of the boxcars, because that's all we need. And so that's another thing about industries, is once you decide which industries you're going to actually serve, you need to start thinking about facilities so you can make sure that you have all the necessary track work. Another good example is here. This is an ice plant. In the late 60s, they were still icing some reefers, so we have facilities for bringing in wood chips and salt. And then, of course, here's where we would load the ice into the reefers and whatnot. So another one here, this is a fertilizer plant. So we bring chemicals in, we bring our bulk chemicals in, our liquid chemicals in, and then we, of course, ship our finished fertilizer out. We have a gasworks over here. So we ship in coal, we turn the coal into coke, and then we ship out, different tars and coal tars and things in chemical form, in liquid form. And of course, we have a lumber mill. So at the lumber mill, you don't actually need a lot of facilities. You just really need places for forklifts to be able to access your rail cars. So, and then of course, everybody loves grain industries. So with a grain industry, you need a place to store the grain. Hence why we have this massive elevator. All right. So this is what you have to decide and what you have to include when you are considering what industries and what types of carloads they're going to need. All right. And then lastly, the fifth thing, if you really want to get into the next level, is you want to do an advanced analysis where you basically, you look at an industry, like for example, maybe an ethanol mill, or let's think of something simple. Maybe a factory where they take plastic pellets and turn it into plastic bags, or, something like that. You go in and you look at, okay, what's the actual industrial process? Let me learn about the industrial process. Let me learn about, how many tons of inputs they have versus how many tons of outputs they have. What percentage of the outputs are the final product, and what percentage of the outputs are byproducts that either are wasted or could be shipped off for some other purpose. This is all stuff that you got to think about. And so there are a lot of different ways on this route that byproducts actually end up serving other industries. And that's kind of a big thing I wanted to model here, was I wanted to use industries where their byproducts would not just be ignored, but would be shipped all over the place. So for example, there is a big bleach plant in a town called Castlegate. And in that town, the bleach plant not only produces bleach in liquid form, but also bleach in powder form. And then also the salt that comes in creates a bunch of different byproducts that are shipped to all different industries across the route. And right off the top of my head, of course, I don't remember word for word what all those carloads and things are that it ships, but I have a list somewhere that tells me what it is, but it's quite a few things. And so that's something I decided I wanted. I wanted an industry or several industries, where not only would the main product be delivered, but the byproducts would be delivered too. And yeah, you can sit there and figure out that, 5 tons of corn gives you 2 tons of ethanol, or whatever the conversion is. And then you can really get a sense of, how many carloads need to come in versus how many carloads have to go out. And if you really care that much, you can then try to create a routing scheme so that you'll have that kind of balance, which some people really enjoy. I'll be honest, on really big routes like this, where we're running, almost full-size trains, to an extent, I like to try to model that a little bit. But when it comes to model railroads, I almost never care about any of that. I just kind of let JMRI do its thing, and we go from there. It just kills me how this track isn't loading. There we go. But yeah, those are the 5 things to consider. So quick summary. How does your branch line interact with the real world? Where is it located? What industries are you going to serve? What car loads and car types are you going to bring in, so you can determine the facilities that you need, which is the key one. And then naturally, what kind of industrial process are taking place, so you can make sure to get the proper ratios of inbounds versus outbounds. And real quick, just to kind of show off the port here, because I haven't really ever showed this before. It's not a finished scene, but it is kind of roughed in. But all of this here is warehousing. If you've ever been to like a river port or a seaport, there's just a ton of warehousing everywhere. And so that's what most of this is. This is just warehousing. And the nice thing about warehousing is you can ship any finished good to a warehouse. So it creates for a lot of nice traffic movement. But this whole port here is actually on a big branch line, because the only way to get to the port is to go right through here. And then you head right through town. And I apologize for it not loading very fast. I have my details turned up way higher than usual when I'm recording videos. But it heads right up through here and makes its way around, and then connects back to the yard. So I love how it's just not loading, but it's all right. We're good. It still looks fantastic. Obviously, as you can see, still a lot of work to do here, but things are coming along nicely. So there's my little spiel about kind of how to design industrial switching lines, but also kind of some things to consider. Obviously, there's no one answer. There's no right answer. There's just opinions and experience. And, you can look and get ideas from the real world if you really are having a hard time, and that's perfectly fine. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I know it's a little bit different than usual, but stay tuned. I've got some more stuff coming out this week, and hopefully I'll start getting my voice back soon so I don't sound so raspy. But I do apologize for that. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.